Looks like we are live. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you are. And welcome to Lunch Bites with Coach Dana and I am Coach Tiffany, and this is Coach Dana. And today, Dana has some great advice and tips to share with us on, well, 3 tips to just help navigate the holiday party scene, because it is getting to that time where parties, activities, all sorts of festivities and stuff are going to be happening as we get closer to Christmas. So, Dana, without further ado, just go ahead and take it away. Let's dive right in.
All right. Well, thank you. Excited to be here as always. And I know that we talked about Thanksgiving, right? And managing Thanksgiving, and we'll probably touch on a few things that were similar, but Thanksgiving is generally one day, right? So,
Yes.
But the holidays and the parties and that this obviously spans a significant amount of time. So I do feel like we have to have some strategies in place, and probably most of you are feeling that things are much more closer to normal even this year. So you're probably seeing that your schedule is a lot fuller, right? That all the holiday parties are back. There's a lot more in-person stuff. There's so many activities to choose from. And that makes things challenging if you're trying to stay on track with your health and fitness goals. So before we get into the actual tips, I want to say that we really have to have a strategy in place to kind of manage our stress and self-care in general, right? This is something that we want to have ongoing. And it is hard for us, and I think it's even harder for women to set aside time for self-care.
Yep.
Because a lot tends to fall on us during the holiday season. But I want to encourage you to think about what you are doing each day for a little bit of self-care. And whether that's taking time to journal, taking time to gratitude journal, taking 5 to stretch or sit, or just 5 minutes to read a book that you can escape into. But let's make sure that you don't let yourself fall way down on that list as we head into this very busy holiday season. So that's my pitch to you on that before I get into some tips for actually managing the actual events, because I do think we have to have strategies around that.
Absolutely.
So here's my first tip, and this is where some boundaries come in. I mentioned that there's a lot more parties this year. There's a lot more events this year. What I want to tell you is that it is okay to say no. You do not have to go to every single thing. And that is hard. I know it's hard, especially because we might have felt limited the last couple of years. But physically, mentally, and emotionally, if you are trying to do too much, your health is simply going to fall by the wayside. So it is okay to say no. You don't have to be super mom, and you don't have to volunteer for everything, and you don't have to be the one to bring in the treats for the holiday party, right? So just take a look at what your schedule looks like, what things are most important to you, which parties, which events, what do you really want to prioritize, what are most important to you, and then attend those, because it's very easy to feel bad and to feel that FOMO that you're missing out on something. But I encourage you, again, this is where we have to place ourselves first. We have to put our own oxygen masks on first. So that is my first tip with these parties, is say no to some of them. Set your boundaries, have those boundaries in place. So I don't know if you have anything to add on that, Tiffany.
I love that. And I think this is something I talk about, well, you and I both talk about boundaries all the time, but especially like during this time, one of the things, like when I'm talking with boundaries about my clients and, learning to say no, it's okay to say no, is also like the flip side of that is being okay with other people saying no. Like if we're saying no, like don't be one of those people that, makes someone else feel guilty or puts that added pressure on. And yeah, just so if you put yourself in their shoes, or just like we're talking about saying no, then make it easier for other people to say no as well. And that's something I know that, I don't know, sometimes we worry about. I'm just going to leave it there. It's just, I think it's important to, if you're one of those people that tends to maybe overdo, not only is it important to set your own boundaries, but then remember that when you're inviting other people, like, so it's a two-way thing. So we're not putting those unnecessary pressures. We're not adding to someone else's. So anyways.
I love that. Your own boundaries and those of others. Absolutely. That's a great point. Thanks for adding that. So my second tip here, and this is probably something that if you've been watching us for a while, it will sound familiar. But on a day where you have an event, if it's a lunch event or if it's a night event, start your day with protein. And really any day, get that protein in, but especially in the morning. The last thing you want to do is skip breakfast and do a light lunch and then head into your holiday party starving.
Yes.
Because we know how this is going to go. So what I like to do in those on a day, if I had a party at night, I would make sure that I had a solid breakfast, a protein-filled breakfast, probably 20 to 30 grams of protein. And then for lunch, I would try to have something. I would typically have a salad or some type of vegetable that is filling, right? So a lot of vegetables, something that keeps me full, but is less calorie dense. And then I probably have a little snack mid to late afternoon before I went to the party. So that I show up and I have some room, I have some flexibility, but I'm not starving. You're just setting yourself up. We don't want to have, why put yourself in that situation? Because we know that you're going to be faced with delicious choices. And if you go in there starving already, just making it harder on yourself. So set that day up with protein in the morning, because we know that keeps us feeling full. And we also know that tends to eliminate that late night hunger. So set yourself up with protein in the morning. And then on that note, quite honestly, as you're scanning the choices at the party, look for the things that are more protein heavy. And we can usually find those. I know it tends to be a little more difficult with this time of year because there tends to be a lot of treats, a lot of cookies, maybe going to a cookie exchange or things like that. That makes it more challenging, sure. But if you're going to a party where there's appetizers and a meal, look for the protein first. Try to have that first. That way, you know that you're hitting that target, and that is going to make you feel full so that you're not setting yourself up to overindulge later.
That's so great. And I think like, it's just interesting to me, like looking back, I don't know, just like on some of my habits when I was younger and like my kids were little, and the difference it makes of having like a high protein solid breakfast versus something like cereal, or just not heavy on the protein and more maybe heavy on the processed side. And it really does set the tone for the whole day. And so I like what you said, like on any day, try to start with a solid protein for breakfast. But especially at this time of year where we are faced with all the treats, like the protein really does make a big difference. And if you're not in the habit of doing that already, experiment and just see how you feel, but it's always amazing to me on the rare occasion that I don't start my day with a high protein breakfast or meal or whatever. It really does make a huge difference. So anyways, I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
Or add to your, or not add, but just, emphasize, like, I love what you said there. So
yeah, protein, can't get enough for sure. So moving on, I actually have two more now that I look at my notes. We're going to give you 4 tips today.
Yay, bonus.
So as you're entering these holiday events and these parties, here's what I would encourage you. And I'm pretty sure we talked about this with Thanksgiving as well. but find what you love most. What are they serving that you love most? Have that, have it and enjoy it. It's okay. What I often see, and I know I've done this before, is like I dance around everything else, because I think, oh, if I have one of those, I'm going to want to have more. And then you just end up getting into that spiral. So what I would encourage you is to find that thing that you really love. So I know for me, I mean, everyone loves Christmas cookies. I do too, but I love cutouts. Love cutouts. I know they're very basic, but give me a good cutout. So I know that if I go to a party and there's a ton of cookies available, sure, I like peanut butter blossoms and there's other things I like, but I will choose the one that I really love because listen, comes around once a year. I'm going to have those and I'm going to enjoy those. The other ones that I can kind of take or leave, like, why have that? Like, it's not really serving any purpose.
Yeah.
And again, this is where we can do the boundaries. We talked about this in things, like, you don't have to have stuff just because someone brought it. Like, we're not here to make other people feel good, right? You gotta just do what's best for you. So again, have what you love and enjoy it, really savor it, take time to eat it nice and slow. But that's a big thing for me, is to really dial in on what you really love.
Totally. I agree 100% with that.
Yeah. And then my last point is around alcohol. And of course, during the holidays, this becomes, a bigger obstacle for people. And I just want to encourage you to, tread carefully in this area, because it's a very easy way to have more intake calorie wise. But then as you take in the alcohol, we know that our inhibitions are down, and generally that makes us more likely to eat. And I would just say, is that really what you want? Probably not. And the drink around the holidays tend to be higher calorie drinks. There's a lot of mixed drinks, a lot of specialty drinks. So my choice for you in this is always alternate an alcoholic beverage with a glass of water, and to just try, straight up mixed drink versus a special holiday cocktail. I just think it's easier to manage it from a caloric intake standpoint, but also a quantity standpoint as well. I find with the mixed drinks, you stay more hydrated, even versus like a wine, versus a mixed drink, you'll stay more hydrated, which is important. So try lightly when it comes to alcohol. There's lots of yummy food. Enjoy the food and don't overdo it on the alcohol.
Love it. Such great tips. And now I'm already kind of thinking about like, okay, what do I want to make room for this week? Like, as far as like my favorite treats and things like that, is I'm thinking of the next, because you're so right. And it's interesting sometimes when you do like aren't mindful about the choices, and you just, before you know it, you've kind of filled up, and then you're like, oh, I didn't even get like that my favorite thing or whatever. So and it is disappointing, and it's almost like, hey, can I get a refund on those calories? So I love the whole thing, like just being mindful about it and making it worth it, so you're actually enjoying the things that you're looking forward to. So awesome.
I saw that you were baking Christmas cookies, weren't you? You were baking some kind of cookies.
The gingerbread, like they're my favorites. And one of my strategies to like help me not eat as many with like treats sometimes is to put them, in the freezer. But the problem with these particular ones is they're really good straight out of the freezer. So I have to like put them way in the back where I don't see them all the time, because they're easy to just keep eating. But gingerbread, the soft kind, those are like my one of my ultimate favorites for this time of year. So what about you? Like, what's your favorite? Well, you've mentioned the cutouts.
Yeah, so definitely the cutouts, and I'm the same way. I love them straight out of the freezer.
Totally.
Yeah. So I generally don't do a ton of baking. I'm not really great at baking.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier for me to manage. But you bet, if I go somewhere, those are the first ones. Those are the first ones I will enjoy very much.
So good.
Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
how's your holiday program going? Because you guys are.
It's going great. Yeah. I mean, we're keeping it very basic. We've talked about nutrition and we've talked about exercise, but in a very manageable sense. But I think, and I know that you realize this too, having the accountability of people to do this with. So I think we have 18 people in the program, and it's just really nice because they feel like they're really in together, and they're sharing their wins and they're sharing their struggles. And so I think that in that sense, it's been very helpful for just to keep everyone moving along, and keeping that dial somewhere dialed, in the middle. In the middle might dip a little bit lower. If we've had a couple people, myself included, that have been dealing with some sicknesses and things like that. But the value of the accountability from a group, I think, cannot go unnoticed for sure.
It's huge for sure.
Yeah.
And that's same thing with me. I just noticed that there's just something about the camaraderie and having a place to like not only like celebrate your wins, and it's fun to like be able to express that in a community that kind of understands and gets you. But then also when you're having those rough times or those rough moments or whatever, it's good to know that you're not alone and everyone struggles with some of these same things. So that's great. Well, awesome, Dana. Thank you so much for joining as usual. And we will be back. We'll both of us, drop our Facebook group links in the comments here, but we'll be back in 2 weeks with another Lunch Bites coming your way. So in the meantime, everyone, have a great rest of your week, a great rest of your day, and we will see you next time. Take care, everyone. Thanks, Dana.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. All right. Bye.